An impressive amount of LEGO Star Wars fans seem hung up about how the clone troopers appear in LEGO sets. But what if I were to tell you their argument has some justification? How they go about expressing their opinion on the matter is their own decision. Let's go over the issues at hand that led us to this point. First and foremost, for those of you non-Star Wars people stopping by, this is a stormtrooper. They look like they have eye holes. This is also a stormtrooper. These ones look like they have shades. These here are clone troopers. These ones have a T-shape on their helmets, for the most part at least. People call the ones with the angular chin Phase 1 troopers. The one with the circular spots in the chin get called Phase 2 troopers. We'll be using those terms while we focus on the clone troopers today. Ever since the clone troopers first showed up, LEGO has been making figures off of them. As time went on, more unique characters among them were introduced, featuring special outfits and colors to either show their status or their individuality. Some shows even had different styles from the movies, and in the past, LEGO has paid attention to those details and how they design the minifigs. After a bit of a lull, while the most recent trilogy of Star Wars movies released, LEGO began to, once again, put the clone troopers regularly in their sets. This included both phases of clone troopers, but the majority was the Phase 2 clone troopers. Beginning specifically with the 501st Legion clone troopers set, we began to regularly see these troopers. Immediately, fan excitement turned to getting particular clones, such as Captain Rex and Commander Cody. LEGO tends to keep an ear on the ground just to hear what's of interest from fans. It's why the 501st Legion set was made in the first place, but it's also how we ended up getting Commander Cody, who features a unique helmet with a visor built into it, among other details. To have this visor attached to the helmet, LEGO decided to add holes to the helmet they already had for Phase 2 clone troopers, right above those circular spots that would have worked perfectly, were they not too low in order to accommodate the visor needed for Commander Cody. However, rather than making this helmet with holes unique to Commander Cody, and any other future Phase 2 clone troopers that would have the visor, they decided to give this modified helmet to all of the Phase 2 troopers from there on. In prospect of builders wanting to customize their troopers with the accessories these sets would often include, the aforementioned visors, and these antennas called rangefinders, this makes sense, or I imagine that was the intention anyway. Distaste in the choice ended up growing throughout the community, as it looked like giant holes were literally drilled into the helmets of every figure, what with how that ring shape is formed around the accessory ports. That shape is there to make that spot thick enough to hold the accessories while they wear them. Seems a little silly at a glance, but when you realize that this was the first time Phase 2 troopers got those accessory ports, many in need of accessories to complete their designs, it can be a bit defeating after waiting so long, considering these helmets were featured in Star Wars stories as early as 2005. By this point, it was 2022, especially since the Phase 1 troopers have a helmet that have always had the option for accessories with the holes in the side, and were placed perfectly on those rounded ends of their helmets, as the thickness of the walls of the helmet are perfect there for that. Clearly what happened here was that original piece mold for the Phase 2 Troopers helmet was modified to add holes, rather than making a completely new helmet, opting to put them in a spot convenient for the visor specifically, compromising the shape of the helmets. This instead of having two separate molds for the helmets, one with the holes, one without them. The negativity comes from them looking rather intrusive to the appearance of these characters that looked just fine before. The preference, I'm sure, would be LEGO making a brand new Phase 2 Trooper helmet that would see a shape that would look attractive while also accommodating accessories as well. I feel perhaps part designers worry about the shape of the helmet being deformed because of that, but let's be real here, these are LEGO minifigs. You're gonna have to take some creative liberties on proportions to make things work. Look how wide LEGO Sonic is compared to his video game appearance, for instance. They're still gonna keep him within the design language of the minifig. Making a new one that would pair well with the Phase 1 Trooper helmet would certainly solve most issues. Something that should be clarified now is that people like to make armies out of these characters. They are troopers after all. Often displayed, fans would want the troopers to look good while doing so, hence the scrutiny in how they appear. You'll also notice how these helmets have fins going down the forehead. Some of these have color markings here, and in the past, they have lined up perfectly against the fins, or fit perfectly on top of them, just like they're supposed to. These days, that almost never happens, to the point that some have huge gaps between the markings and the fins. Clearly there has to be some changes in quality control. Most fans ask, if they could do it before, why can't they do it now? Especially for a company that's doing as well as LEGO. You would think budgets would accommodate for that. While the helmets have been a huge topic of contention within the LEGO Star Wars community, there is another thing that's been a serious topic of discussion. You see how Captain Rex here has a cape around his waist? Called a comma. From the start, LEGO created specific elements for these characters, eventually leading to fabric ones in the early 2010s. This lasted until 2020, the same year, and even the same wave the 501st Legion arrived. Jumping to 2022, more characters needing a comma were introduced. However, an implied one was printed on these instead. The assumption was that they no longer were making them, but that proved false in time as other themes introduced characters wearing waist capes that work the exact same way. LEGO uses the price of printing as a reason not to print on the sides of minifigure legs, and they never print on the behind of the minifig either. This leaves these comma-wearing clones with this appearance of them not going around the back. Some have suggested that LEGO should just dual mold the legs, meaning that they make both halves of the legs different colors of plastic, and then print white designs that look like the uncovered part of the legs over the dark colored plastic to make the full comma. Thing is, LEGO has proven consistently that would look even worse. Another idea people had on why commas weren't being made for clones was the assumption that kids tear them off, not realizing how to take them off, in order to sit the minifig in their vehicles. If this were an issue, LEGO could just add a blurb to the instructions showing how to remove them. Considering other sets that have waist cape wearers don't have that, it's assumed that's not the case. But if those figures are getting them, why not the clones? It can be integral to some clones' appearance, and with how lucrative LEGO Star Wars is, they might as well make them as perfect as they can be, right? LEGO lives by the motto, only the best is good enough, whether that is a code of strict conduct or simply a phrase to encourage quality. It's clear that fans would not see any of these issues falling under either interpretation. This doesn't sit well with concerned fans too, when budget is going into products that seem strange to even exist while these issues persist, especially when they were not issues before. Add this to strange happenings in LEGO's marketing materials for these sets as well. On the cover of one set, it shows the rangefinder antenna attached to a clone trooper's helmet where the fans would have expected it to be, rather than in the hole they added to the helmet that is also clearly shown here as well. In another, you have these clones with stripes on their helmets that, while they aren't perfectly lined up to the fins, they're all symmetrical and lined up perfect. You'll be lucky to find any clones like these with printing this nice. The reason these images are this way is because LEGO made them digitally, rather than using pictures of the final product you'll receive. It's false advertising, but whether this has any legal grounds to take action on is something one should ask a lawyer, not someone like me. Tensions did not start the best either. In 2021, a mix of promotional flubs led to sincere disappointment from fans. The most notable being this figure's inclusion in the Ultimate Collector Series Republic gunship. Nothing is wrong with this clone trooper commander. It's a thoughtful inclusion. The issue is how the designers tried, sincerely, to convince people that it was a pilot. This image here shows detailed figurines of a clone pilot and a commander. Yeah. That's about where everything started to snowball. I understand these fans' feelings, and I know some go about different ways to express that, some that can be hard to understand, but I hope that this clears up the waters a bit. It is nitpicky, but we all can be that way, especially when our favorite things are involved. As for me, I'm just happy we're getting clone troopers so frequently, although I would love for them to look the best they can be too. So I'm on both sides. I'm good with what I have, but if they can be better, I'd love to see that too. I did a whole video on why so many LEGO Star Wars fans are not satisfied with how Clone Trooper minifigs are done, and as a middleman in this situation, it would be weird for me not to propose a solution. So I combed through the comment section of that video for what you all wanted to see, and with your help, I think we can have something that satisfies everyone. Since we last talked about this, 2 new Clone Troopers have been revealed and a pair of sets that we can add to the pile of figures that could use some more love, especially since they're important characters in the grander Star Wars story. First off is Captain Rex. An exclusive version of him is included in the UCS Venator, but as you would guess, he doesn't have a fabric comma, or a waist cape if you prefer, instead opting for the printed option we went over in the previous video. The kind where it only shows on the front of the legs, despite the character having a full comma that wraps around them. He also uses the exact same helmet piece as the rest of the Clone Troopers, meaning he has the holes on the side many have distaste in. Just so we're clear, and I don't think I communicated this very well in the first video, as it seemed some commenters were confused on the matter, but we are all okay with helmet holes being on these figures. As LEGO is a toy first, it's important for Clone Troopers to have the option to accessorize. They just could have gone on a different spot, but I'll go in depth on that later. Second is Commander Fox. Now, like most Clone Troopers, he also deals with the helmet holes, this time using it to accommodate the visor, so it makes sense they're there, as well as a printed comma, just like the Captain Rex we just went over. In the previous video, we discussed how printing white on dark colors did not fare well. The image I shared was legs featured on a minifigure from the Jurassic World LEGO sets. Turns out, Commander Fox serves as an unfortunately perfect example as our first pink Clone Trooper. Yeah. The white printing is on a red torso, meaning the red color bleeds through. You can tell the difference between what the white should look like by looking at his legs. Here's a look at the other shock troopers included in the Coruscant guard gunship alongside Fox. They have white pieces with red printed on. No issues whatsoever. Now, LEGO has rules with how much printing they can put on minifigures, as a thicker print can easily rub on parts the minifig can wear, such as a piece of armor or a helmet. However, there have been rare instances where they chose to ignore that, even in LEGO Star Wars. But this was not one of those times. We've all played with minifigs once in our lives, and with play comes damage to their prints anyways. If a child will play with a minifig with a thick print, where would end up happening anyways? So LEGO might as well use that method where it's needed, yes? I will use some harsh phrasing here, as honestly, this looks really ugly. Especially for a print on a minifigure in a set that costs $140 US. That's some premium pricing right there, and a lot of other minifigures that suffer from these issues are in sets that are big as well, many of which are even higher in price. But if you really wanted to go over that, you can watch my video on strangely expensive LEGO sets, linked here. Premium pricing is actually one of the biggest qualms people have with these issues, even going by my comment section alone. A lot of highly desirable characters are in massive Star Wars sets, and most agree that the quality we see does not line up with the prices we see. Heck, when it comes to the helmet situation, some people have stopped shopping LEGO Star Wars altogether, and not all sets include clone troopers with those issues. Fox is completely incorrect in the torso too. So as one of 3 really appealing characters that could really use even more minifigs to accompany them, that really is not helping things. But take a look at this. In all of the digitally created images for the Coruscant guard gunship, Fox looks perfectly colored, matching white and all. This is what everyone sees in all promotional material and even on the packaging that sell people on it. He does not look that nice. This is another instance, like the poorly placed rangefinder we went over in the previous video, where LEGO is falsely advertising the quality of the product they're selling. A serious issue with doing this digitally, especially considering the lifestyle images of the set don't hide the print discoloration at all. In fact, it's quite honest about it, which isn't always the case. With Fox here showing off another printed comma too, I think it best we move to the next consensus within my comment section. Everyone wants fabric commas. Rex has a rather oversized pauldron, so clearly fabric elements can happen. Printing only on the front of the legs just does not work. Other minifigs are getting fabric elements around their waists in other themes, so Star Wars certainly can. It really comes across as a budgetary reason. And for something that sells so incredibly as LEGO Star Wars, I fail to see why a budget would be so limited for these sets to warrant having to use this practice. And I'll even say, they don't even have to be printed. Although we would pay for them if they were. Just to put this into perspective, there are level-headed and officially recognized fan outlets that agree with the whole comma situation. If even they are voicing concerns on the subject, you know something isn't living up to expectations. Now, to the helmet struggles and finding a solution. First off, everyone is cool with the Phase 1 helmets. LEGO does not need to change them. The visors we see included as accessories with these characters are excellent minifig proportion pieces for this helmet. That part does not work with the Phase 2 helmet. It's not even accurate, nor minifig proportioned. The holes in the helmet were designed with that piece in mind despite this, and many of my commenters suggested that pieces be included to plug these holes to satisfy people's want to not see them when a visor isn't in use. With that comes the issue with the fact parts that small won't even appear as LEGO pieces to most people. The holes also make protrusions at the side of the helmet as well, and serves as one of the primary complaints people have with them, and in this situation would protrude even further out with plugs in them, especially since they would need to be made in a way where a kid can remove them. So that solution is out. What then? Well, the protrusions for the holes happen in order to easily connect the rangefinder antenna. Just making a hole without a protrusion would make them fall out because there isn't enough room to fit them in. So a part of the helmet that's thicker than that spot, and makes sense, would be needed. Like this ear-like part on the helmet. It would be just the right thickness to do that with, just like it is on the Phase 1 clone helmets. Doing this would make the visors we currently have impossible to use, as they would cover the eyes of the clones that use them. I think LEGO might want to consider doing a new visor for Phase 2 troopers. One that accommodates this new helmet hole location I'm suggesting, while also being more accurate compared to the source material. Or perhaps the best solution would be making a brand new visored Phase 2 clone trooper helmet altogether, a helmet completely separate from a standard one. That would mean LEGO would need to make more sets with characters that would use the helmet to justify its production. But if the helmet is excellent, you would know we would love to see it. Also, LEGO, if you are listening, make more unique helmets that multiple characters can use, please. Clone pilots, that are actually clone pilots, for instance, would need their own helmets, and there's plenty of options for sets to use these new molds in if there's any need to justify the choice. Again, if the mold is excellent, and you make even more characters with it that we don't have yet, people will come. Especially if the printing on the helmets are more consistent, which actually was something more of my commenters had issues with than even the helmet holes. We talked about LEGO printing the designs on the helmets closer to the fin on their heads in the last video, and so many agreed that was at least the first thing they would want to see, if not more precise shaping of the prints. People will come in droves if things look fantastic. With just how many people purely buy LEGO Star Wars just for the minifigs, honestly, their excellence should be the LEGO Star Wars team's top priority. Some people in my comment section were even arguing that LEGO would never listen, and we should just resort to using third-party products. And just to say, if that idea becomes a bigger thing, and the idea of minifigure quality regressing becomes a bigger deal, that's a lot of money LEGO is missing out on. That stems further from sets having incredibly high pricing for the minifig quality, especially in this situation. Heck, it even transcends the LEGO Star Wars theme as a whole. Some sort of balance needs to come about in order to make this all work out in the end. What's encouraging me to speak up even more were these unfortunately common comments on that previous video, where people were complaining why people were complaining, considering the fact LEGO was a toy for kids. Well, that stopped the moment they started charging triple digits for sets. Even more so when they started putting an 18+ age ranging on lots of them too. Of course, that also makes whoever said that sound really awful, because they believe that children don't deserve the world and the highest quality toys they can get. Remember, voicing your opinions and complaints civilly provokes change, especially when it comes to toys and entertainment. If we hope to see that change, we got to keep talking about it, keeping it in the conversation and doing so in productive ways. Also, while I have you, there are two short unrelated things to this that commenters were adamant about having. Phase 1 Clone Trooper Battle Packs and Stormtrooper Battle Packs. The masses have spoken. Anyways, do you think these solutions work? You can let me know down in the comments if you feel so or want to add something to the mix after you like the video and subscribe. If you're gonna buy these sets, consider joining Rakuten, using my link in the description. Shopping at any store they offer on their website, including but not limited to LEGO's own website, gets you money back. It's not a sponsor, but I get a kickback, so it always helps. You can also donate an amount of your choice to the channel too, by clicking the thanks button. It works like Super Chat and a live stream, but for the comment section instead. If you want to catch up with my coverage on LEGO's Clone Trooper situation, or just anything LEGO Star Wars, check out my content here on the end screen now. I'm Pen, and I'll see you next time.